Welcome to Passion for Prevention, where we celebrate the unsung heroes changing the world. Join us as we delve into the minds of those on the front lines, uncovering the strategies, mindsets, and breakthroughs that are making a real difference. Get ready to be inspired. And now, here's your host, Nathan Ray.
Welcome to Passion for Prevention. I got to spend some time with my really good friend, Dave Closson, today. We talked about his business, and when Dave started his business, he set a 3-year goal and he absolutely crushed it. He completed his goal within 9 months of being in business. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm terrible at listening to my own advice. So, here's my first question. What strategies or actions did you take in that first 9 months that were pivotal to your success in hitting those 3-year goals in those first 9 months?
Yes, good question. And the short, I'll do 2 answers. The short answer is I read the book, The E-Myth Revisited, and I sat down and wrote out my answers to their business development plan. Like they give like step 1, step 2, step 3. So that's a short answer. But as I reflect on it and think about it even more to kind of unpack it for you, it was a mindset shift. There were probably 3 pivotal mindset shifts that occurred to me during that, leading up to that first 9 months and during that first 9 months. The first one being understanding the difference between building a business and having a side hustle. And by that, I mean, rather than just looking for gigs, because it has always felt very overwhelming of, oh gosh, I'm going to have to get a ton of $1,500, $2,500, even $5,000 speaking gigs to pay the bills, to sustain. And that just felt overwhelming. And so then when I switched and started thinking about a business and what is a business? Well, a business is products, services, offerings, but they're systems wrapped around that to make it grow, to make it operationally efficient, to make it sustainable. And so as I started to reflect and gain clarity on that difference of, oh, I'm trying to get speaking gigs versus I'm trying to build a business, that clarity helped. Then one of the other mindset shifts was that more around clarity of the vision of what kind of life am I trying to create? What do I want my random Tuesday mornings, Wednesday mornings to be, my average, my normal, and then thinking of the business as the vehicle that's going to get me there or help me live that life, rather than the business or revenue being the goal or the destination. The lifestyle is, and the business is just meant to support it. That shift helped. And then the last one was an abundance mindset, going from that scarcity to abundance. And I still have to wrestle with that. It feels like there's not a lot of money out there. I'm not worth a lot of money. I'm new, and all of that imposter syndrome all wrapped around it. But if you really zoom out, and like I even pulled the numbers for the entrepreneur cohort that I went through, and you look at the amount of money that goes into prevention is astronomical. Like there is a lot of money out there. And then I looked to a few, I'll call them rock stars in the field, and I looked at their lifestyle and was like, okay, yeah, there is money out there as well. And so those kind of 3 mindset shifts helped me break free and move past those blocks as I implemented the eMyth business development process.
Yeah. One
How's
of
that?
the that's two things that you said. When I sent you the Zoom link to this, I got an
Mhm,
automatic email that
mhm,
was like, "Hey, I'm taking some time. It's that time of year for me." And I thought, man, I would love to be in that position. And it was just one more of those things to where it was like, I really have to figure this out, right? Like I've
mhm,
got to where I can be in that position to where I can, my email in December can say, "Hey, thanks for emailing me, but I'm taking
mhm,
some time." And
mhm,
so second of all, I appreciate you taking away from your time and spending it with me.
mhm,
Um, the so like I thought like, man, that's the destination where I want
mhm,
to be, where I want to go.
mhm,
The second thing that you said was that there's money in prevention, and
mhm,
I think that I've been on the other side of prevention for 7 years. I've been in the
mhm,
nonprofit side
mhm,
for 7 years, and I can tell you that on that side, you and not bashing it in any way, but on that side, because it's nonprofit, you hear a lot. There's just no money. There's just no
mhm,
money in prevention. There's just not
mhm,
enough money in prevention, and I can see from that side that there's not.
mhm.
But on this side, there is, and
Yes.
I'm learning that as I go, and that's why I really wanted to pick
Mhm.
your brain today, because I see you as one of those rock stars. There are several of you that are out there that um, I've always, when I played basketball in high school, I always, if I wanted to be better, I was going to play with the people that were way
Mhm,
better than me,
mhm,
even if I looked like I was the worst player on the court, I was still going to get
mhm,
better
mhm,
in that
mhm.
game. So I want to spend time with those people. So I wrote down the name of the book, the E Myth Revisited. Um,
Yes.
you also said like dealing with the imposter syndrome and all that, and I get that. And so that's actually my second question. How did you deal with the self doubt, especially in rapidly in that 9 months? Like this is your
Mhm,
3 year goal, and everything's happening so fast. Certainly that
mhm.
self doubt is there. So how are you dealing with it during that time?
Dude, it doesn't go away. As far as
Good.
I
That's
know, it doesn't
good.
go away.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
It's just the writing those inner scripts that you tell yourself, those conversations that you have with yourself, building your awareness of the imposter syndrome's existence. And so then when I'm imposter syndrome, boom, all right, boom, you pull this lever and you've got these scripts essentially that you can tell yourself to remind yourself of your value. And also celebrating the small wins. Even at like coalition work, we're always so focused, head down, work, 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 work. There's always work to be done. And so now, like, take time to see how far you've come and acknowledge it. Affirm it, like, I did it and I'm doing it. Like, holy cow, I'm doing it. This is it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm living how I want to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
That,
I
yeah.
think you said that inner self talk.
Mm-hmm.
I have three things that I say to myself when I recognize that I'm in that self doubt pattern, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I don't recognize it, and my wife will have to be like, "Hey,
Same.
hello,
Yep.
I got
Yep.
to give you a pep talk now."
Yep.
But when I
Mm-hmm.
recognize it, I will say that I belong here,
Mm-hmm.
that I add value,
Mm-hmm.
and that I have a voice. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the three things that I use. And when
Mm-hmm.
I say those things, there's other things that go along with it. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
belong here. I've spent 7 years doing this. Of course I belong
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
That experience alone adds value to what I'm doing. And so that's what brings the value in. And then I have a voice. I have something to say. I have a story to tell. And I saw your post last night that said, you know, just giving like statistics and data, and that's all good things, but delivering a story, people remember a story much longer than they remember just the data and the statistics. And so I try to remind myself of those things as well. So what did your networking and your relationships look like during those first 9 months? I almost want to call it the pregnancy of your
I know,
of your
right?
business.
Right. I would say those 9 months started in 2015. And well, a couple thoughts sort of circling back. I'll come back to this one about like the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, and that a part of my personality, like who I am as a person and how I want to show up in rooms, is showing up as just Dave. Not as like that limiting belief of, oh, I'm just Dave and dismissive, but as a more relatable, approachable, I want to connect with you. Don't worry about my resume, my curriculum vitae, or any of that, because those don't define me. And so like I'm very intentional about that. It means a lot to me. But then when I find myself in rooms with PhDs and on paper smart people, I still get that feeling. And then also there's some folks that they have egos, plain and simple.
No.
I know, right? And they like to be the smartest person in the room. They have got to have the last words. That shuts me down still, because it's just so against my heart set. So just thoughts, just kind of wanted to share that there too, because I feel like your personality, you're so caring that you may also experience that when you're in the room with I call it on paper smart people.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that and remind yourself of, I'm being intentional about being authentic, and that's more important than letters after my name or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I still have to remind myself of that. But then other thought that really popped in my mind that I've learned this year that maps to my ongoing battle with imposter syndrome, or the I'm not enough mentality, I learned actually comes back to my trauma. One of my So I'm going through the VA's trauma recovery program. I'm just about done with it now. Still work to be done, but
Yeah.
identifying sort of my stuck points and how they're mapped to fail, fail, fail. I'm not worthy. Things along that line are really at the core of my I'm not good enough self-talk, which was just like, oh shit. Like one of the big takeaways in one of my sessions was, so we identify a stuck point, and then we write alternative narratives and look for evidence for that stuck point, evidence against it, all these different tools, which you may be familiar with. But I was like, wait, I can never be considered a good person, but yet I've dedicated my life to prevention and mental health. So it's like that realization, like, I never dawned on me that I've dedicated my life to this work.
Yeah.
And it's mapped to my feeling like I can never be considered good enough or a good person. It was like,
Oh,
holy shit.
that
Yeah.
that had to be like a great awakening for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, oh, whoa. But I know you've got trauma, addiction in the past too. So I share that for you to reflect on, and
Yeah.
maybe there's some similarities or insights there.
No, there totally is. And I will say I'm a little bit opposite from you. And so
Hmm.
I have, because of those big egos in the room,
Mm-hmm.
I get egotistical and I try to match them. And I have ruined relationships because my my ego comes into, you think you're better than me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm just going to be better than you, and then I'm going to say something that's going to, hurt your feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not going to be better. And so I get it. And so I've really had to try, even in this past year, Dave, I've really had to check myself and look at those moments and go, okay, Nathan, that's on you. No matter what, no matter what their attitude was, that's
Mm-hmm.
on you. You
Mm-hmm.
you have to take accountability for that. And so I'm very, I don't know, I can become very egotistical in those rooms. And so I have to be careful of that, because what I don't want to do when I'm networking and building relationships is my ego get offended and
Mm-hmm.
then be like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to let you know, you know, I have to check that. And,
Mm-hmm.
but that again, that's a trauma response, and
Mm-hmm.
you know that as well. And so
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that you said was you're going through the VA trauma recovery program. I
Mm-hmm.
wish they had that for military brats.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see a program like that for military
Mm-hmm.
brats. And because I will tell you, if you dive into research and statistics on military brats, there's hardly any.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's hardly
Mm-hmm.
any.
Are you familiar with Reboot Recovery?
No.
They're a faith-based military first responder trauma recovery program. They're actually, I think, based out of like Knoxville, I think.
Okay.
They have online curriculum, in-person stuff. Um, they might be, if you're okay with that faith-based aspect, they might be something, an opportunity for you to explore.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
take in their podcast and their social media posts. Um, yeah, but they do trauma work.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Cool.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so your initial question or was about networking,
Networking.
relationship
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
So the highlight reel started in 2015 when I was at the Illinois Higher Ed Center as the assistant director, and I knew I wanted to go down this path. And coming from law enforcement, which being a cop, my identity was my job, my job title, not I'm Dave.
Right.
And as I moved into the higher ed position, or the higher ed center, that position, I realized and felt that sort of carryover of my identity. And as I learned about entrepreneurship, professional speaking, and branding, I was very intentional about building my brand around my name, knowing that that brand equity would follow me from different job title to different job title. And so that mindset was what helped me. But then really at the crux of it would be more my values, in that what through some surveys that I do with some of my clients, people do business with me because they trust me, because they know me and like me, and because how I make them feel. I make them feel valued, I make them feel heard, I make them feel important. And I don't, this is something I'm working on, is having a more thought out and intentional relationship nurturing system, but really just approaching interaction with genuine curiosity. And then instead of just pitching and selling, just finding ways to bring people value. And that is really still my main approach, is just always looking for ways that I can bring people value, and not leading with money or anything along those lines, and just trusting that the more people I bring value, the money is a byproduct of that, and it'll come.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I've learned.
Yeah.
In a more tactical approach, I've also learned I've never really figured out how to really articulate it well, but it has to do with like positioning. And I guess I've just been natural at it, at putting myself in good positions to then either create opportunity or be positioned to step through that door of opportunity when it presents itself.
Yeah.
But I have not been tactical or strategic about, oh, I want to position myself here because of, but I just know that my positioning has been a very important factor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have a recipe or playbook for that though.
I like what you said. What can I do for you? And every time I've networked or gone to a networking event, I've always gone in with the attitude of like, how can I help you? I don't want to be here for just me. And if there is like, if I can help you in some way, then that's what I want to do. And if somewhere down the line, you think, oh gosh, Nathan can handle that. Nathan can do that. Great. If not, that's okay. And I think that's the key to networking. So that really confirms for me that I'm on the right path. Okay, so we have
I got a story
8 minutes
that
left.
just popped in my mind.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
So I just had a virtual coffee with a gal that led my entrepreneur cohort that I went through. And she was asking like, hey, did you ever connect with Brian at Preventia? Or I forget the company's name. Like, oh, yeah, I did. And I was going to introduce him to, these contacts that I know and these, like, just helping him out. And she's like, okay, well, what is he helping you with? Like, well, nothing. Like, well, what do you mean? Like, I didn't ask for anything. I didn't come into the quid pro quo.
Yeah.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Like, I could help him, so I did.
Yeah.
And like that just, it didn't like catch her off guard completely, but she's like, oh, okay. But it's that mindset and heart set.
Yeah. I agree. I will say though, like right now, like I'm asking for help and like this is hard for me to do. And no matter how many times I stand in front of 500, 600 kids and say, it's okay to ask for help. I'll bang my head against the wall trying to figure it out before I go, all right, enough is enough. Who do I know that could give me some advice or give me some insight into what I'm dealing with? And I think sometimes when we network, we should look for those opportunities to be like, hey, you said this and I'm dealing with that. Is it okay if I ask you a question? Because I like, not that you're there to just get that, but you know what I mean? Like it's okay to ask for help. And I don't know, I'm really bad about it. That's why I'm mentioning that.
The way you're asking for help was kind of different than what I was thinking.
Right. Yes.
But yes. Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. 6 minutes. So
yes.
you're in the hot seat now. Okay. And this is the last question I have. So
okay.
If you could go back to those 9 months, is there anything that you would do differently to either make the process more efficient or less stressful?
I don't know that it's possible to make it less stressful. As an entrepreneur, as a side hustler, your baseline stress is always going to be elevated.
Yep.
What I would do different, rapid fire, more systems and processes from the beginning. And more SOPs, more actually writing down my workflows, even if it's different for every single client. Start mapping out those processes, because if you don't have a process actually clearly defined, you don't know where the weak links are to be able to improve it. You don't know where those levers are that are working to be able to pull even more. So your work, it's like, gives you nothing really truly to work with. Then also it won't, right. And then when it does come time to like hire or have an assistant, you've got that playbook, at least a starting point for them. that is one thing. Then one of the other big things is my marketer. Part of me wishes I had hired them or started working with them sooner rather than later, because their brand strategy framework, their questions, they helped me understand my business better than I did by myself. They helped me better talk about it and think about it. So I found that being very helpful. Like, wish I would have done this sooner.
Right. Right.
Those are probably the two things that come top of mind for the last hot seat question.
Cool.
Fire away. Responses, thoughts.
Yeah. I think the branding thing is something that that I need to focus on, and the processes. As you know, I have ADHD. You have probably seen it active as we've been on this chat.
I haven't noticed or paid attention.
But
I'm just listening.
But I need processes and systems, and that's one of the things that, you know, I was really thankful that I married the right person, because she like put systems, she recognized it right away, and she's like, here's your systems and processes. But I need those, and I don't have those in a business, and so I'm trying to organize all of that, and so so those are things that I really have to nail down and start thinking about is what's the brand, and how do those systems and processes benefit that brand? How do they, push it out there in a marketing sense? I want to thank Dave from the bottom of my heart for being on the podcast today. I'm going to put all of his links down below, his website link and his social media links. Thank you for listening today. I enjoyed spending time with you, and I hope you enjoyed spending time with us. And I want to thank you for having a passion for prevention.